It's
So what's your
extremely close.
You can try to explain it to me, but I don't know any. I live in
All right.
Claudia.
So here's the idea. Okay, let's say I make $45,000 a year. Okay, that's what my contract says. So the banker's rule says I can multiply by 2.5. I can multiply by 2.5, and this is the type of house I can technically afford if it was just me. Now, obviously I'm married, so we can add my wife's actual pay, her annual pay, into this. Then you combine both of our pays and you take it times 2.5. So that's if you're married, you have both people because you're gonna have both credit scores. That's why it's kind of nice if you have a co-signer. You add more annual pay so you can afford a better house. But there's a risk in doing that in case you like separate or divorce. Then one of you stuck paying a very expensive down deposit because you bought a house that was kind of out of your price range, right? So 45,000 times 2.5, I could afford by myself without assistance a $112,000 home. Okay, that's without my wife's pay on top. Okay. What we did is we checked Garner because I want to move here in town. This is back in 2011 when we were whole grade sharing at the time, and I was moved over to the high school. So we were looking at houses, and there was this nice house on 11th and Maven. White house, has a huge garage, which is perfect, and it was $83,000. So it was $83,000. That's what they wanted for the house. You can do a little negotiating. Fine. It was $83,000. It was marketed just right. When you actually look at the price of the housing at the time, you look online at property values. It was correct. It should be 83. We looked it over. There was only a couple issues I had with the house at the time. It was the garage. Basically, there was a couple issues with the garage, and we negotiated and we got it down to 81, which is not a big deal because the house was marketed in the correct price range, so you're not going to wiggle a lot. But we went 81 because we had to do a couple things to the garage to make sure that it was fixed or at least workable. And then the idea is that 81 is what I was going to pay. Now, what we did is we did a down payment on the home. So the bank didn't require this since we already pre-approved instantly, right? Because my wife's credit score, her annual pay, my credit score, my annual pay, like we were instantly approved. Like there was no doubts about it. We could sign all the paperwork and walk out the door. But I chose to do a down payment. Okay, I did a down payment on the home. I did a 20% down payment. I put a 20% down payment on the home before we signed the paperwork. Okay, we bought the home, right? But when I did a 20% down payment, you take your $81,000 home, 81,000, you take it times 0.2, right? That's 20%. So in fact, I'm gonna put this over here. So 81,000. That's the agreed price for the home. So we went to the bank. I agreed that I was going to do a down payment of 20%, so 0.2. When you multiply, I did a down payment of $16,200 on the home before I took the loan out. I'm not joking. I paid 16 grand right off the top out of my bank account for the house. The reason why I chose to do that, because I knew in the long run, if I could put a really big chunk of money down, that's big, that's a big chunk of money, down for a down payment on a home, it will save me in the long run on my actual payments for the home. Because we did some of those calculations yesterday. We were talking about, like, you guys did that thing where we did the whole compound interest where, I was buying, I think yesterday I did like a $105,000 home, and it ended up costing me like $500,000 in 30 years. I think Dyer, you did one where it was like $700,000 in 30 years. It's insane. But making a down payment actually saves me money. So today, my goal is to show you how much it actually saves me, and like what the difference is here. And I want you to see this. This is the only thing I want you to have written down today. So my down payment was $16,000. That means when I went to the bank and I took out my loan for the down payment, I do my $81,000 and I subtract the $16,000 off the top. So this is what we're agreed for the house. I just made a down payment of $16,200 for the home. That means the bank loan that I was taking out that day was $64,800. That was the loan that we agreed on. Then I signed the paperwork. I had a pretty good percent on it. I think it was like a 4% interest because I had really good credit at the time. I still do, I should say. But it was 64,000. So that's what I have to pay over a 30-year process with that formula that I showed you, with the compound interest formula. So what I want to show you today is what would the difference be that if I did that payment for 30 years, you know, like I show you that formula that we did yesterday, and what's the difference if I didn't make the down payment? Like where I actually paid 81,000 straight, I just took out that loan and that's what I paid for 30 years. Like where I didn't put that big chunk of money down. Because some people like, Ward, why'd you spend 16,000 in your home? You could have saved your 16,000, bought your home, used the 16,000 and upgraded it, bought other things. Can you stop? Thanks. All right. So, let's talk about how much that actually saved me in the long run. So, I'm gonna leave these down on the board here. So these are the numbers I'd like you to have. So 81,000, let's do this number first. 81,000, if I were just to take this out.
You need yourself.
Need notes. So, all right, 81,000. Okay, I had a 4% interest at the time, which is crazy, like that level of interest rate. And I want to show you the money that I'm saving. Can somebody close the door for me, please? Gullikin will be walking in a second, but. All right, so I want to show you how much money this is. And you're going to see right off the top the difference in price just instantly. So here's the amount I'm paying for the home. My principal, if I didn't do my down payment, this is the amount I would have to borrow from the bank. 1 plus my rate was 0.4%. I had a 4% interest rate. It's compounded 12 times a year, 12 times for 30 years. And that 12 to the 30th is in the power. Now this is the part yesterday when we were doing this for that one example you had to submit to me. Some people couldn't figure out how to write it. They couldn't figure out how to type it in. They weren't doing the right numbers. You have to figure out this part first, like what that decimal is, it's 1 point something. Put it to the 360th power, because that's 12 times 30, and whatever that number is, like it's going to be something like 5 point something, we take it times 81. Some people are going out of order. They're just trying to type it in, one big shot in the calculator, hit enter. That's not how you do it. You have to do one part at a time. So 0.04 divided by 12 is 0.003333, just a bunch of threes. And we're going to add that to the number 1, which is 1.00333. And we're going to put this all to the 360th power. Okay? Yeah, just make sure you close the door behind you there, Dalton.
Is this locked still?
No, I don't know why it's locked. If you just like turn the door handle, it should open.
It's locked.
Is it still locked? Perfect, yeah.
Doors.
Perfect, all right. Okay, whatever. All right, so we're gonna put this to the 360th power, so 1.0033333, all to the 360th power is 3.31349, blah, 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 blah. And now that I have that written down, the last thing that I have to do is multiply by 81,000. So I have to take that number. This number is 3 times, I'm basically paying 3 times as much for my home. That's what that's telling me. So 3.31349 for blah, 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 blah. And, oops, sorry. 3.313494052 times 81,000. And this turns out to be, in 30 years after I pay my loan back, I'm paying $268,393.02 for my house. If I didn't make a down payment. That's an expensive home over 30 years. I agreed for an $81,000 home. In 30 years, if I don't pay it off sooner, I'm paying $268,000. That's not good. So what I did is I made a huge down payment, like I told you, and I want to show you how the down payment makes the difference. I'm actually agreeing to a $64,000 home because I made a down payment of a pretty big chunk of money. Now the good thing is, all these numbers are the exact same. I'm still doing 12, compounded 12 times a year for 30 years. For 30 years, it's still 4% interest on a smaller chunk of change. This number, if I do all my math correctly, this still turns out to be the 3134, blah, 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 and I'm gonna take this times 64,800. So this is, now I made my deposit still all the same number, because this never changed, only the amount I borrowed from the bank did. So 64,800 times 3.313494052. Now, this is what I'm paying. Now, I may not look impressive. Okay, yeah, say it again. My $16,000 deposit just saved me $50 in the long run. Do you see why I made a $16,000 deposit? I just saved 50 grand because I'm willing to make a huge down payment in the long run. That's huge. That's massive. You're seeing it. That's a real number that you're seeing in front of you. I'm not joking. That's exactly the numbers I just deposited this year, or back in 2011. Now, am I happy about that number? No. But that's the facts of life. I didn't have $64,000 in cash. I had 16 about that I was putting in. But it saved me 50 grand in the long run. Now, this is something that I would do. Like if I was gonna buy a home, I'm not joking, this is something I would run through my calculators, because I know the math behind it. I would run through this, and if it wasn't worth it, I wouldn't deposit $16,000 in the home. Because if you don't go 30 years, maybe you go 20 years, or you go 15 years, you can't take a 15-year loan out for a home, like a really cheap home. I mean, some people yesterday, when they were like looking at a home they wanted to buy, there were some people in here that found a home in Mason that was 20 grand. 20 grand for a home. It was actually a decent home. It had like 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. Like it looked okay, probably not the best curb appeal, but it looked good, right? It's 20 grand. That's like a car payment. That's a decent car. And you could have it paid off in 10 years, and now you don't have a house payment ever for the rest of your life, and the rest of the money you save, you can put back into the house and make it look better and sell it for a lot more. So the least amount of years you borrow money for, the more it saves you, but the down payments will be your downfall. Because I'm saving 50 grand over 30 years. If I would have went 20 years, I may not save that much money, but I would be paying a lot less in the long run. So there is a difference there. But that's what I wanted to show you today. That's it. That's all I want to have today. It was just, I want to show you a real life example of something that I actually did. Because I think that's important. You guys need to see that. Yes. My monthly payments on my home, $214,714.41. That's almost exactly the amount of money that I borrowed. I think it was off by just a few pennies. I divide this by 30 years, divide this by 12. I'm making $596 house payment a month, which isn't that bad. I mean, don't get me wrong, that's a lot of money, but that's not as bad as my student loan, which is $1,000 a month.
But you also have a wife in the pictures.
I do have a wife, so that does cover it. But we also have to pay for water, utilities, kids. My kid is expensive. My cell phone bill is about as much as my house payment right now. So, but yeah.